in the UAW strike that is currently occurring, Brandon had a really interesting quote. Hold on. Fuck, man. This guy fucking posts non-stop. Jesus, Lord mercy. Where is it? 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 This was a good one, too. He's moderating for the general election. I'm trying to find his post where he talks about the Joe Biden being oblivious and up until the strike happened, literally thinking that the strike wasn't going to happen. That in and of itself wasn't him downplaying the strike, okay? For the record, that was not him downplaying the strike, okay? That was him actually thinking that the strike is not going to happen. Because I think even the fucking CEOs did not think the strike was going to happen. And my assessment for this, or my take on this, is motivated by what I've heard the CEOs say. Like, they were caught off guard with their fucking pants down. They literally thought that it wasn't going to happen. How can you be that oblivious? Okay, I can't find this goddamn fucking post. This guy posts like nonstop. It's from like over the weekend, I think, and it just like stuck with me. Oh, here. Oh, this is the one. This is the one. Oh, thank God. Okay, it was a David Dane post. Are you out of your fucking minds? Democratic Representative Debbie Dingell told a longtime advisor to Joe Biden after the president publicly predicted the UAW wouldn't strike. According to a person familiar with the talk. Here is the article from Politico. But at times, some Democrats and labor leaders said the two sides have not been operating from the same page. As an example, they noted that earlier this month, Biden publicly had predicted there wouldn't be a strike. I'm not worried about a strike, Biden said ahead of his speech in Philadelphia celebrating Labor Day. I don't think it's going to happen. Fain, Representative Debbie Dingell from Michigan, and others were marching in a Labor Day parade in Detroit when they learned of Biden's comment. Dingell would later tell Fain that she called longtime Biden advisor Steve Ricchetti and screamed at him over the comment, according to a person familiar with the talk, and granted anonymity to discuss details. Are you out of your fucking minds, Dingell said, per the person. So how? How do you get here? Because the Democratic Party at its fucking core is corrupted, okay? Every single person with an earshot of Joe Brandon is the exact type of fucking dumbass that these CEOs are. How are you this oblivious to the labor momentum in this country? How are you this oblivious to the understandable needs and demands that your workforce is making? Okay? That is the hilarity here. To me, this signals that Brandon, at the very least, is playing catch-up here, which is good, because he did come out and show support for the UAW. Who cares? He's been great on labor. Man, shut the fuck up. I'm the one who says that, not you. Suck my dick, okay? That doesn't mean he's not worthy of criticism. And that certainly this quote in and of itself certainly signals who's in his ear, idiot. I'm doing political commentary, not just going, oh, Brandon is the greatest president of all time. Suck my dick. It's good that Brandon is playing catch up and at the very least is not like inherently antagonistic towards labor movements. That to me signals that there is at least a change, a sea change, an attitude change, okay, in the Democratic Party and even in the Republican Party, as a matter of fact. I'll say that much, okay? But let's be fucking real. While the NLRB is doing great things simultaneously under the watchful, eye of the Brandon administration, this to me signals that there is literally a major disconnect with the CEOs and the rank and file and the people that are literally on the assembly lines. And there's a major disconnect with Brandon and the working class. Are there no Democratic representatives, consultants out there that work in this field, in this space, that could have told him that, no, this is a very real strike that's about to happen? Of course there are. The problem is they're not in his orbit. Do you understand what I'm saying? They're not in his orbit at all. That's the problem. Biden wasn't alone. Adeyemo predicted no strike on CNBC a week later. It seemed to be a White House position, and when I asked multiple people, nobody could explain it. Okay? I work at Ford, and even the day before, Ford didn't think it was going to happen. Yeah, exactly. And for the record, they literally did not think that this was going to happen to a degree that where like the bosses, the CEOs currently are so like they're so callous, so careless, so inconsiderate that they have the audacity to go on national television and say, "Oh, I had no idea this was going to happen." 150,000 fucking workers, dog. 145,000 rank and file members in the UAW. And you were oblivious that a fucking strike might happen? How can any shareholder look at that, hear the CEO say that and go, "Oh, that's my guy. I want him to keep being the CEO." That is an abdication of duty. You are a bad CEO. That doesn't even make sense from a fucking CEO perspective. Like, that doesn't make sense from a pro-capitalist perspective. If you're that oblivious to the fucking demands that your labor, like your productive labor force has, then you shouldn't be the fucking CEO. It blows my mind that they can openly say it. Okay? They can openly just put that out there. Where is the guy? Where's the Ford CEO who said this? I'm trying to find the video right now. This is it. There's no way we can be sustainable as an economy, says Ford CEO Jim Farley, if they paid what the UAW is demanding. In this interview, he literally was like, "Yeah, we didn't know it was going to happen. It's just so unreasonable."
The offer that they have, what they're demanding, relative to where you are right now, how much damage would that do to the bottom line if you were to say, "Sure, we'll give you 40%"?
If we signed up for the UAW's request, instead of making money and distributing $75,000 in profit sharing in the last 10 years, we would have lost $15 billion and gone bankrupt by now.
Bullshit. Fucking bullshit.
The average pay would be nearly $300,000 fully fringed for...
We covered this before, and then he immediately turns the fucking attention away to like, what about the teachers? It's like, bitch, what do you mean? Was them not knowing good or bad for the UAW? No, of course it's bad. It's bad for the UAW because like they didn't think that this threat was real. So when you think that the threat is not real, you don't meet the demands at all in good faith. So much so that they had to file grievances with the NLRB. The UAW had to do that to get them back to the fucking bargaining table. Here it is. Biden not worried about the UAW strike versus Detroit 3. Don't think it's going to happen. I'm sorry. You cannot be a fucking CEO of a multi-billion-dollar corporation, act like you have a fiduciary responsibility to your fucking shareholders, and be like, "Yeah, this is crazy to me, actually. I think it's completely ridiculous that this happened. I don't really understand where this came from." It's like, how are you that oblivious to the reasonable demands that your fucking workforce is making, and why do you think that you should still be the CEO?
To this UAW strike with our next guest, Harry Wilson, Chairman and CEO of Meva Group. Previously the senior member of President Obama's task force. Harry, it's good to see you this morning. You make some points we want to talk about here. Welcome. Good. How are you?
Great to be with you.
Been a while. We keep hearing, and we heard Sean Fain the other day, minimize the effect of what actually labor costs are in relation
I'm gonna pee. I'll be back.
An automaker's overall income statement, or whatever you want to look at, with 7%, 8%, 9%, I forget what it was. You point out that is very misleading because of the way things work. It's such a low margin business that a raise like this, free cash flow could be decimated. So the company could never basically have a hard time innovating or investing.
Yeah, look, I think the most important thing that comes out of this process, however it gets resolved, is to make sure the companies have a sustainable framework for long-term success, which is what we created back in 2009. And that involves a number of things, but part of it is the ability to invest in research, innovation, and growth and development. That's good for the companies. It's good for the workers. And what happened in the past that led to the failures of General Motors and Chrysler in 2009 was because they had uncompetitive deals, not just on labor, but across the board, made bad product decisions. And as a result, didn't make that investment and ultimately failed because they weren't able to compete long term. And so to me, the real focus needs to be on that same shared sacrifice, shared success that we established in 2009 that held for more than a decade. And because of the record inflation we just went through, increases in auto prices and profits, and the old collective bargaining agreement, that was violated in the last few years. And that now we're playing catch up. So creating a deal that allows for addressing that with significant wage increases, significant ratification bonuses, but keeping that in a sustainable framework to still allow for long-term success through investment, that's the balance that needs to be struck by both sides.
Yeah, I sounded.
I mean, look, the UAW helped save the economy by taking a fucking pay cut and changing the COLA adjustments, cost of living adjustments, that they previously had bargained for when the bailouts were happening. Okay? But what did the fucking CEOs do? They never, in good faith, gave the cost of living adjustments back. Okay? They also set up a two-tier structure, which they are trying to currently eviscerate, where the same workers on the fucking assembly line are getting paid less for doing the same output, simply because the big three can get away with that. You tried to get away from these arguments that American liberalism is the problem, but now we're getting to the issue again with neoliberalism not being able to understand what unions are. One of your best takes is how the media seems numb when it comes to covering labor movements. It's as if they've forgotten how to effectively report on them. Moreover, the same seems to be happening with CEOs and people in positions of power. They've lost their ability to respond to labor movements like they used to in the past. Yes, there is a really unique opportunity here for unions and unionization in general because of how much capital has won this class war. Okay, that CEOs are too comfortable and are completely oblivious, like to how to effectively combat unionization. And no, that link doesn't work, my friend. If there's any way to bypass the paywall, I would love to get there. For this Bloomberg article, I want to read it. CEOs today have never lived in a world with strong unions. They don't even consider them a threat, even in heavily unionized industries. Exactly. That's precisely what it is. They're so comfy, like they're so used to just like no movement, no momentum whatsoever, that they just like forgot what it's like when unions do strike.
I was only giving you one side of the coin. I was going to get to what you just highlighted, and that is that you did reach an agreement that was necessary, which was a long time ago now, even though it doesn't seem like that long ago, of shared sacrifice and shared profits. But I don't know if the agreement's been breached, but certainly the workers got the short end of the stick in recent years because their wage increases didn't keep up with what nobody knew we were going to have inflation this high. But they've got a legitimate beef. So as you point out, there's got to be a middle ground here. I don't know if it's 40%. Yeah. What is your solution? What would bring them into? What would make it fair? And I hate using the term fair because it's in the eye of the beholder. But what would make it fair to rectify that their wages have not kept up in the last 2 or 3 years?
Yeah, that's exactly it. I think that violation of that shared sacrifice, shared success wasn't intentional. It was because the collective bargaining agreement, the last one, was negotiated pre-pandemic, and no one anticipated the inflation we've been through. And so the question is, given what's happened and given the outlook over the next 5 years, which is what this agreement before, what's fair to address that? And if you look at just the compounding of inflation from the last 2019, when the last agreement began, through today. And then even if you assume a normalized inflation going forward, which I think is more likely than not, that ends up being 30% above where they are today over that period of time. And so you can look at that as, I think, fair. It allows workers to keep up with inflation. Ends up being a significant increase. The numbers we're talking about, whether it's the 18 to 20% currently being offered by the big three or the 40+% has been asked for by the UAW, they are over 5 years, and they do reflect a catch-up period. So I think the way to address that is to have something more significant that's being offered today, have a significant ratification bonus.
Mainstream news don't even talk about the two-tier system. They're just hammering the 40%, which they also like backdate. Okay, and act like that is how it's supposed to work when there's a back and forth. This is negotiation. Okay, this is a bargaining process. You put forward what you think is the best solution, and then they go and say, "Hey, this is not feasible. This is our counter." Problem is, they're not doing fucking counters. Or they weren't doing reasonable counters. Their counters were completely unreasonable or not even out there to begin with.
That's effectively a catch-up payment for inflation, and focus on that, which is great for workers, but doesn't hamstring the companies going forward, and to say a hard no to the things that basically repeat the lessons of the past. Things like the job bank, things like 32-hour work week, things like retiree medical, that bankrupted the companies going into 2009, and which fundamentally don't help workers today and don't.
Spain said it last time about not increasing car prices and they could get what they're asking for. But what if they do increase car prices to subsidize the strike demands? Same with the writer's strike. If the streaming services all just increase their price like Disney, Hulu did, was the strike a success? As in, if stock buyback CEO pay remained the same while the consumer of the product seemingly picking up the tab. That is completely outside of the hands of the labor union. Okay? At that point, government intervention of market forces is a necessity, okay? Especially when considering that all of this has already happened. Car prices have gone up 34% over the course of the past 4 years on average in the big three that is currently striking. The labor cost of each individual vehicle manufacturing has gone up by 4%, okay? So it's not tied to the labor price. It's not tied to the union demands, as a matter of fact. This is something I bring up all the time. Okay? Something I bring up all the fucking time, which is that these prices are completely unmarried from labor union demands. Okay? Just completely devoid of that. If anything, the only market forces that they are considering in this situation is how much they can raise the prices, completely unremoved from other stakeholders in the process and what their situation looks like. It's that they are looking to the market and seeing how much can we raise the fucking prices without people being frustrated. That's it. And this is done in this day and age through this is born out of crisis in times like microchip shortages, for example, that creates a logistical hurdle, which causes a short-term rise in prices, and then that price maintains its stability. That price just stays up there because they realize in that time frame, oh shit, it don't even fucking matter. People will still buy it, right? So that's like one example of how inflation works. Another example of how inflation works, or why it's such an ever-present issue in American society, okay? Another issue on American society with respect to inflation is done through corporate consolidation. Corporate consolidation makes it incredibly easy to artificially inflate prices and then have people think that it's happening due to some major supply chain hurdles or something. Like demand has stayed the same, and yet the supply is actually now unreasonably low for one reason or the other. Look no further than the egg prices. If you want to understand that it has absolutely nothing to do with like the avian flu and the way that they try to hide it usually. Okay? It's just simply that most businesses obviously operate on their class position and what their class interests are, but beyond that, most businesses operate as a unit, okay, in every sector. It's not a real back and forth, constant sea of contention. There's a concept called price leadership, which is different than price fixing. Why is it different? Because price fixing happens in a cigar smoke filled, back room where monocle wearing CEOs get together and say, hey, we got to fix these prices. Price leadership, on the other hand, is done not in collaboration, but by one industry giant moving in a specific direction to, like, for example, in the airliner industry, charging you for your bags, and then every single other airliner following suit. Price leadership works very well. It might as well be called price fixing, because most industries in the United States of America are completely captured by corporate consolidation. They're oligopolies. Okay? That's it. You don't need a conspiracy when everyone's interests align. Well, that too. But it certainly makes it much easier to conspire without actually fucking getting into a room and cutting a deal, which would be illegal and scary. Okay? You can do that when there's like 3 companies. Okay? When there's 3 fucking companies in every sector, that's it. They can just like follow suit easily. Hassan, this is an honest question. Are you a hypocrite? Yes.
Don't and then hurt the productivity and long-term success and viability of the automakers.
Hey, Harry, has anybody called you and asked you to get involved? Because what you just laid out sounds like it makes an awful lot of sense. The idea that you think a 30% pay raise is fair because of what they've given up in the past and what they've lost because of inflation, but these other issues are the legacy issues that would drag the companies down. Has anybody called you from either side of the table on this?
I've had a number of calls from folks involved in one way or another, but I'm not involved in any capacity. I've got my hands full with my day job. But I think I've done, I don't know how many dozens and dozens of labor negotiations over the years. And I think it's really important to think about things on a principled framework rather than just a quick bargaining. And what's happened here, Sean Fain is totally outsmarted the big 3 leadership, in my opinion. He has got a deliberate, thoughtful strategy. He's done a great job marshaling his rhetoric and support, even though he
Oh, this is another aspect of finance capital. Yes. Also, the over-financialization of everything means there's no desire for competition. If rich owners own stock and all the companies involved, why would they want anyone to win-lose? Better for them to all just equally take advantage of people together. Yes. That part as well is also very important. Win-win overall. We're all winning.
Came through in a very narrow win in his election just a few months ago. He got out ahead of it. And the leadership of the big 3 really made a massive mistake by starting so small. They started off at 7-8% over 5 years. That doesn't match inflation pre-pandemic, much less address for the issues. So that was inflammatory and I think, frankly, played into his hands a bit. And can't blame him for that. He's trying to get the best deal for his people he can get. And so that's why we're here. If they had started off in a much more meaningful place in the first place and establish those clear principles of, something that addresses the problems workers have faced because of inflation, but also
they were literally talking about not having enough free cash flow to innovate. Like, just keep making Ford F-150s, man. I'll be good. That's the funniest fucking aspect of this conversation. It's like, oh, if we pay our fucking labor adequately, like what they deserve to be paid, even when you compare it to like former contracts that we had, then we won't be able to innovate. And it's like, dog, what the fuck are you talking about? What's innovative about stock buybacks? Okay. That's not innovative at all. Suck my dick. You didn't use that for innovation. You used that to artificially boost your fucking stock prices, and literally in the situation for like CEO compensation is tied to stock performance, you just gave yourself a fucking pay raise. That's all you did. What's innovative? Suck my dick. Cash flow is almost always now used for stock buybacks. It's fucking ridiculous. And also, I don't even fucking fault these people for doing this, okay? Why should they have a conscience? Every single person thinks this is the right thing to do. There is no alternative. They're fucking rugged individualist capitalists. Why would they do that? Why would they not take advantage of a system that is designed for them to perfectly legally engage in artificial market manipulation, okay? Something that was illegal before Ronald Reagan. Why? Why would they not do that if this is what they're supposed to do? Okay? That's what's really frustrating about this, especially as it pertains to the government's role in this process. Do you think the callous disregard from the Biden admin and CEOs could lead to acts of desperation on the side of businesses? No, I think that the Brandon administration knows how to triangulate their messaging to come across as appealing to the labor force. And there are legitimately pro-labor people in that administration that have been working very hard. It's just that I hope that the Brandon administration will hear those people a little bit so that they don't come across like they're, they got their pants down and they're pissing against the fucking wind.
Preserves long-term competitiveness, I don't think we'd be in this place. I don't know that we'd avoid a strike because I think there's still a big gap, but I don't think we'd be in this place. And I'm worried that both sides, on the one hand, the leadership of the big three has to be realistic on these issues. And on the other hand, Mr. Fain can't overplay his hand because that could lead to a really bad problem for both sides.
Anyway, also, it's not like they pay their research engineers very well. The highest paid engineer at 4GM is maybe $200K after working there for 15 years, which is chump change for them. Yeah. Here's another Wall Street analyst that said the UAW demands are reasonable because they are reasonable. Like, that's the other part of this. It's like, of course they're reasonable. They're so fucked in the way that they turned around and just did what capital owners are supposed to do in the situation, which is you cave, you concede, you want the company to continue, and you don't want it to be completely bankrupt. So you say, you know what? We're going to take away the COLA adjustments, okay? Like cost of living adjustments. We're going to take away COLA. It's fine, okay? And then, of course, they're never going to give it back. They're never going to give it back. You have to claw it back. That's what unions do. That's what capital owners do, and that's what unions do. This is how it always has existed. That's why there is a need for unions to begin with, okay? Anyway, but yeah, getting back to it, let's hear what this analyst is saying. Even Wall Street analysts can see that the giant car makers are not being reasonable and fair in their wage offers. A rep from Barclays expects lower wage proposals from the big three to climb higher, similar to other labor negotiations we've seen. This guy physically has to read the room, okay? His job depends on it. And if you read the room and you see demands and concessions being made to labor unions in every sector at a time when, like, it's not necessarily that the labor marketplace is tight, okay? A low unemployment and a tight labor market is good and beneficial for the labor force in negotiations, but like they have a lot of leverage at this point. You see all of these companies making demands and getting their demands. You're, of course, going to assume that the big three has to operate in a similar fashion.
I'm curious to know where you think the point of maximum pain would be, at least on wages. Would 40 over the term of the contract be crippling?
We don't think it'll go that high. We think a more realistic scenario is that we end up at 25 to 30%. It's hard to say where this ultimately goes because there's various negotiation points. What we've published in the past is that something in the 25% range would be similar to other labor negotiations that we've seen. And that's the basis for roughly $2 billion of at least incremental cost that's being absorbed. But again, hard to say. This is in the context of multiple negotiation points in terms of inflation adjustments, in terms of product allocations, et cetera. But wages are likely to be higher than what's being offered by the OEMs right now. At least this is what we're assuming in our research.
Yeah. This guy works for Barclays and can't afford nicer headphones. I mean, yeah, think about why. Why can't these CEOs see that this could be a massive PR boost for them? I mean, I think that it's the problem is the exact same thing that I just mentioned. It's like, why couldn't the CEO see this coming ahead of time? Because they're not paid to, and they're silly, and they don't need to, or at least they didn't need to until now. And also, they don't care about PR. They care about profit, exactly. And they care about short-term profit over long-term profit. PR boost versus ceding powers to workers, kind of obvious why they're doing what they're doing. Yes, it is not in their class interest to concede to the demands of labor unions or labor in general. This is simply yet another expression of class war that they engage in on a regular basis. Obviously, it would be much better if this kind of class warfare was being done behind closed doors and quietly. But that is one aspect of strikes that make this negotiations process way more public. And I am a firm believer that whenever things like this do happen, and nobody wants strikes, obviously, but I am a firm believer that when these things do end up happening, it opens up a lot of people's eyes to the direct situation, like the direct realities that they exist under. Okay, maybe even they can internalize it and see it happening in their own workplaces. But one other aspect of this conversation that I must bring up, okay, is, of course, the way that the right wing covers this kind of shit. Because I know that, like, I love talking about how the Democratic Party sucks and their feckless ineptitude and their negligent attitude against, like, the Republican Party regularly trying to roll back progress has caused death, demise, and destruction, okay? But there is still a major difference between the Republican Party and the Democratic Party, okay? There is, it's just, at least, like, the Democratic Party is not openly antagonistic towards labor and the demands of labor. So here it is. Let's take a look at what, the moderate Republican, okay? The moderate Republican, Senator Tim Scott, Mr. Virgin, had to say about the auto workers that are striking.
A prayer partner of mine spent his entire career without a college degree working at Nucor Steel. And their pay structure took him over 6 figures, several years, because he got paid for his work. The harder he worked, not only did he get luckier, but he got more money. And that's a recipe, it's a formula that we should be using all across the country, not just in South Carolina, but all across the nation. And we're watching today on every screen around the country.
Yeah, people are just not working harder, dude. It's like, okay, that's really interesting. So how do they fucking get like $200 billion in fucking accumulated profit? $20 billion in this year alone. How did that happen if nobody was working hard? Was it the fucking CEOs, dog? Is that who was working real hard? How did that happen? You know? It's like, dog, you're a fucking politician, okay? You're the last guy. Like, this is the biggest says you moment to be like, oh, nobody wants to work anymore. It's like a Twitch streamer fucking literally chirping about how nobody wants to work anymore. It's like a CEO chirping about how nobody wants to work anymore. Okay? If there's one group of motherfuckers in America that work less than fucking Twitch streamers, it's this guy. You get $174,000 in taxpayer-funded government salary, you get platinum health care, and you literally don't work. You never work. As a matter of fact, as a Republican congressman, I'll take it one step further, your job requires you to not show up in many instances. Okay? Are you out of your fucking mind? It's like these auto workers don't want to work anymore? Really? That's your commentary? That's the winning message? Even Trump has the wherewithal to understand, like, to shift the conversation away. Okay? Even Trump has the understanding, the knowledge, the wherewithal to read the room and shift the conversation away to, electric manufacturing. EV manufacturing is going to, like, ruin the industry or whatever the fuck. When faced with a direct question about the UAW's demands. Even he knows you shouldn't be just, like, openly contentious to the fucking auto manufacturers, dude. Come on. It's like the one fucking sector of, like, American workers that still correspond to that old school American workforce mythos, okay? Like, what are we talking about? Who's a worker in the country then? Fucking coal miners? That's it. 56,000 coal miners still exist in this fucking nation. They're the only workers. No one else. Like, what are we doing?
Country, we're seeing the UAW fight for more benefits and less hours working, more pay.
The UAW is pushing for more benefits and less hours working for more pay. That's real interesting. It almost feels like that's their fucking job, dumbass. Of course they would want to get paid more for less work. The fuck do you mean? Why? God, I hate Americans and how fucking stupid they are sometimes that they can't even comprehend what this guy is saying is so reasonable. Why wouldn't you want to fucking work? Less hours for more pay, you fucking idiot. Like, how stupid are you? How fucking cucked are you? How fucking cucked are we as Americans that we look to our direct class interests and go, I don't want that. That's not for me. Not for me, brother. You think the rich don't fucking think on their class interests and regularly implement their desires? Like at the top of the hour, the rich want you to see the 3-minute ad break, which comes and goes, and it's 3 minutes long. But if you no longer want to see those ads, all you need to do is subscribe, which you can do for $5 or free with a Twitch Prime. You can also get gifted a sub if you're lucky. Here's the 3-minute ad break now. But yeah, how fucking stupid. How fucking stupid is this? Stupid. He's like, oh man, the unions want to work for less hours and more pay. Okay. What's the other side of that bargain? What's the other side of that bargain? It's the bosses. The bosses want you to work the most hours that you can physically work with the least amount of pay they can get away with paying. That's it. There's only two sides of this bargain. That's it. It's that simple, okay? It's that simple. So if you only cover one side of this conversation and say these guys are so unreasonable with their demands, what you're doing in a very hidden way, in a very cowardly way, as a matter of fact, is defending the boss side. You want people to openly want to work against their class interests. You want them to work for long hours with the least amount of pay. That's what the bosses want, brother. That's what the bosses want. That's it.
And fewer days on the job. It's a disconnect from work. And we have to find a way to encourage and inspire people to go back to work.
Yeah, it's called better pay, jackass. It's called equity. It's called better pay. It's called autonomy. It quite literally is like giving workers their demands, like giving into their demands to be like, yeah, this is reasonable. Go ahead. You should have an ownership stake in the product that you're manufacturing. That's it. That's how it's supposed to work, which is hilarious because that's what the UAW is asking for, which is something that Tim knows and is currently shitting on. Very reasonable.
And that's one of the things that, as your president, we would have. We would have a nationwide, sea to shining sea focus on you pick the type of work, but if you're able-bodied, you're going to work.
What's he going to do, bro? What's he going to do? What are you going to do? You're going to use the fucking National Guard to, like, make people work at gunpoint? Like, what do you mean? Anyway, it's just like, bro lost the neat vote. It's over. It's just, I wanted to point to that to show you, like, you know, there is still some subtle differences between the Republican Party and the Democratic Party. But yeah, here it is. Biden, former President Trump, in a tight race for the 2024 presidency. CBS News poll finds, and actually Brandon is losing.
News latest poll numbers on the presidential race showing that former President Donald Trump is leading President Biden by 1 point. That's a statistical tie, this among likely voters, if Trump is a Republican nominee. Many who responded say age is a factor for them in their decision. Nancy Cordes is here to break down the numbers. Nancy, Democrats are going to have a breakdown when they see these numbers. Good morning.
That's a possibility, Tony. Good morning. Republicans have homed in on President Biden's age as they make their case against him. And this poll shows that strategy is having an impact, not just among GOP voters, but among independents and Democrats, too. Even those who support him say they worry about someone who is already 80 years old remaining in the job until he's 86.
I know I'm 198 years old. But all kidding aside,
concerns about age are nothing new for President Biden. But the latest CBS News poll puts the problem in stark relief. Only 1/3 of respondents think Mr. Biden would be likely to finish a second term.
Yeah, if only people, dude, if only there were some like political commentators out there who pointed to this. I don't know, in the last cycle. If only someone was like, hey man, seems like this is a one-term situation, and even if it's a two-term situation, it's not going to look good, and that, not exactly super popular, and more so, it's not that he's super popular, but it's more so that, like, he was presented as the guy to beat Donald Trump when, like, there were other guys who could have also defeated Donald Trump, and they were not seen as, like, reasonable alternatives. So, but of course, no one could have. Oh, just kidding. I'm not even hyping myself up. Everybody said that. Like, literally everyone outside of MSNBC, fuck it, even people at MSNBC sometimes said it. You know what I mean? Not pro Bernie, but still. Like, virtually everyone was like, I don't want to vote for this guy. He's, like, decrepit. But what other option do I have at this point? I just don't want fucking Donald Trump to be the president. Oh. He wasn't picked as the guy to beat Trump. He was picked as the guy to beat Bernie. No, but he also was, like, promoted as the only guy who could beat Trump in an effort to destroy Bernie's chances in the primary, which worked. It worked. It worked so goddamn good. It worked so goddamn good, he didn't even have to fucking step foot in any of the Super Tuesday states, and he still wiped everybody out. Okay? So frustrating.
If reelected, while 55% think his likely Republican rival, Donald Trump, would finish his term, even though he was born just 3 years after Mr. Biden.
Do I wish we had a younger president? Absolutely.
CBS News spoke to Democratic voters in Westchester, Pennsylvania about their concerns this weekend.
You need someone with a little more energy level. When I see him move, he looks old, but when I hear him and his ideas, I think they're youthful.
Mr. Biden's doctor says his stiffened gait is a product of spinal arthritis and a recent foot fracture, but that otherwise he is a healthy, vigorous 80-year-old male.
80's the new 40, didn't you hear?
Healthy, vigorous 80-year-old man. She's laughing, bro. That's nuts, dog. That's like, you can't, if your press secretary can't fucking say the propaganda that she's being paid to say with a straight face, like, there's something real wrong here, okay? Anne geldi. No problem.
80-year-old male.
80's the new 40, didn't you hear?
But the poll shows that voters' worries go beyond physical fitness. Respondents were far more likely to say that only Trump, and not Mr. Biden, has the cognitive and mental health to serve.
Why do you think so many Americans still say they have concerns about someone in their 80s?
Dog, it's because people respond. People respond to what they see. That's it. Okay? Donald Trump is also fucking 80, but he is far better and far more telegenic than Joe Brandon is. That's it. I would go so far as to say the same about Bernie Sanders. Bernie Sanders is older than both of them. And yet, when he's on camera, you don't see it. Trump is 78, not 77. But it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. What I'm simply stating is that, like, Trump is a little bit younger than Joe Brandon, but ultimately he presents as much better than Joe Biden does. Same with Bernie Sanders. Bernie Sanders is older than both Trump and Joseph Robinette Biden, and yet if you watch him on television, no, he's 77. Wait, let me see. How old is Trump? I thought he was 78. Not that it fucking matters. Bro, that's so old. Shut the fuck up. You know what I mean? Like, oh, he is 77. My bad. Sorry. Fake fan, I know. I thought it was 78. Anyway. So he's 77 years young, so he's good. Joe Brandon, on the other hand, what is he, like 80? Joe Brandon is 80. He's too old to be president. And about to be 81. The 80 years old of today are the 70-year-olds of 10 years ago. But do you get what I'm saying? Do you understand what I mean? This poll has Trump winning 17% of the black vote and 47% of the Hispanic vote. Like, come on. If you think that Trump winning 17% of the black vote and 47% of the Hispanic vote is actually not a conservative estimate, I don't know what to tell you. Those numbers are real, okay? No, don't say fuck no. Chat, I've been talking about this for some time. That literally tracks, okay? Oh my God, I hate this conversation. Chat, that abso-fucking-lutely tracks. Dude, okay. Without Googling, tell me what percentage of the black vote did Donald Trump win last time? Don't Google it. I didn't study. Okay, everybody's dropping crazy numbers. Hispanic people vote less and less on racial lines every election? Yes. Thank you. Thank you. People don't realize that. 70% of Hispanic people in the country identify as white. Something to consider. Okay? A 5% increase from 12% to 17% is not outside of the fucking boundaries. Okay? It's not completely ridiculous to assume that Donald Trump would be able to increase his support, especially when he already has. Hassan, are you right wing? Yes. Hispanic support is also moving in the opposite direction. Okay? This is a literal point of contention. Black voters in the past would just simply stop voting for one reason or the next, right? Because Republicans would make it hard for black voters to vote. Okay? However, nowadays, at least what we've seen so far, what we've seen thus far is that, especially in certain demographics, Donald Trump and the Republican Party in general are doing a very good job of changing, like actually bringing voters to their side. Okay? Please stop talking about Spanish-speaking American voters as monolithic. They're Puerto Rican, Dominicans, Mexicans, Hondurans. Come back. What? Peruvians and Joanne. They all hate each other and do not vote as black Democrats need to realize this. Stop calling me the Hispanic vote. God damn it. No, black voters are the only voting bloc outside of, I guess, like white men without a college education that has consistently voted in a monolithic fashion. But that in and of itself is actually changing. Okay? And you're right. The Hispanic voter bloc has always been incredibly diverse. But in the past, the Latino voting population, you could still make assessments on. It was never a monolith. There were certain concepts that were analyzed, like overall you could parse out, you could separate like the Cuban and Venezuelan voting populations that had a dramatically different opposing viewpoint on which party is better. And then the rest of the Latino voter bloc across the country was voting in the direction of Democrats. Part of that was also age. Part of that was also a lack of personal wealth that they've accumulated. as time changes, as time moves on, and the Latino voters get older, they have a little bit more capital, they are going to predictably move in the different direction. Now, on top of that, the Republicans have done a very good job of making single issue voters out of a lot of Latino voters, which 70%, remember, identify as white. Okay? So that's important to recognize. So what they've done is recognize, like, the Texas GOP is one to follow closely on this because, you know, there is a shit ton of Latino voters in Texas. Texas is red, very red. How did that work, you know? And the Texas GOP recognized a long time ago that the Hispanic Latino voter population actually across the board, Trump won 8% of the vote, not 12. Oh, sorry, 12% of black men, 8% of black voters overall. So listen, I'm going to get back to that conversation in a second. Okay? Latino voters across the board, even on older demographics, are oftentimes, especially in older demographics, are oftentimes very Christian, very Catholic, and very socially conservative. And yet there's one factor that they care about above all else. They are, no matter how you ask them this question, even in the most like antagonistic way possible, they are in support of big government. Okay? This is something that is very unique. They are in support of bigger government initiatives, which is a way, like a framing of this question that is like inherently a negative connotation associated with it, and yet Latino voters say that they're in favor of it. Now, in the absence of the Democratic Party tailoring or crafting a message towards Latino voters that is in favor of better government initiatives, okay, there's only one thing left that they would vote on, which is social conservatism. Okay? My dad is homophobic but likes big government. That's it. Democrats can't go, all right, fuck all the religious shit. Don't worry about that, okay? We're not going to touch any of that. But you want good social programs? We got you. They don't even do that shit. They just lie. They rely on the Republican Party being racist. They're like, hey, look at these fucking racist Republicans. Come on, vote for us. Trump said Mexicans are rapists. And then you got fucking Mexican Americans who are like, no, Trump is right. Mexicans are rapists. Yeah, and also he's a real Christian, and I care about abortion, and I hate socialism now. We're going to fucking go and vote for Trump. Like, what are you doing? If you don't offer people anything, why the fuck would they vote? Have you done your homework on Latino voter stats recently? Are you quoting stats from college? I haven't looked at this that recently. This was like polling done from a couple years prior, not from college. But you are seeing, for the record, you are personally seeing a sea change right now. You're seeing a change in the you're seeing a change in the attitude. Okay? You're seeing a change in Latino voting blocks and the black voting bloc moving not in the predictable direction of like maybe not voting, but instead in certain instances actually voting for the Republican Party. And this is minor, certainly minor, but it signals certain poles shifting in this country. Okay? That's important because if the Democratic Party keeps losing the black voting bloc, okay, due to circumstances like voter suppression and also due to a lack of interest in the Democratic Party to do anything that materially protects them, okay, that's one thing. But if they start losing voters and they start going and voting in the other direction, then we're talking about an entirely different situation. So saying like, oh man, no black people are voting for Donald Trump, I mean, you're missing the forest for the trees. Signs of weakness for the Democratic Party among Hispanic voters. While most Hispanic voters plan to vote for Democrats in November, they overwhelmingly say they're voting on economic issues. 54% say they're voting on economic issues. 56% still say they're voting for the Democratic candidate. Who do you agree more with on the economy? 43% say Democratic Party, 41% say Republican. Bro, other voting blocks, they would literally say they agree with the Republican Party. Like, lifelong Democrats would be like, yeah, I agree with the fucking Republican Party, actually, on the economy. That in and of itself is a continuation of the thing I was mentioning to you, is that like Latino and Hispanic voter blocks are significantly more open-minded to big government initiatives or more social safety nets. You fucking ask them, though. You ask them, like, who has your better interest in mind as it pertains to, like, gun rights or abortion and shit like that. They're going to fucking vote for the Republicans. So stick to that message. Okay? I can fill in the gap if you want. The last 2 years, 2020, a huge shift in Hispanics happened. That was figured out later to be the religious realigning of Republicans. The trend did not continue into 2022, a polling miss. They said it would move more. It did not in the results. It matched 2020, nor any special elections since. It might have been the one time, but we will see. The Dems don't deliver on any leftism populism, so don't be shocked when the right plays off of social conservatism. Yes, the realignment is also happening on the white suburban voters, which are some of the last remaining voters out there anyway. Okay, one of the most important, one of the most pivotal votes out there. Educated white suburban voters are moving towards the Democratic Party as well. So, I hate to admit this, but like the former Chuck Schumer quote comes to mind. It became the truth, right? Which is, for every vote we lose in Pennsylvania, we win 2 in the suburbs. For every blue collar vote we lose in Pennsylvania, we win 2 in the suburbs. And he's like, I mean, the numbers are not completely correct, but he's not wrong. Now, of course, I don't agree with that in principle. Okay? Like, I think it's stupid and an incredibly short-term motivated. But that is the Democratic Party's triangulation. That is their message, and that's what they are hoping to do. But yeah, let's get back to some more positive shit. I want to watch this UAW strike video from More Perfect Union.
Monday through Friday. Now it's empty due to the fact that we are on strike. We are fighting for what we deserve.
You can't expect these workers to make cars they can't afford to buy. This is just not about the UAW. This is about all active employees across the United States, because what happens here will happen everywhere.
But it's been a long time coming. It's history in the making.
No deal, no wheels.
For the first time in history, the United Auto Workers Union is striking against all big 3 automakers at once.
About 12,700 workers committed to a work stoppage at 3 locations.
The UAW is demanding pay raises of more than 40% for its members to match the pay raises of CEOs of the companies.
The strike became official overnight when that midnight deadline hit without a deal.
All of you know that there was once a time when a union job in the automobile industry was the gold standard for the working class in America.
Yup.
Well,
Preach,
we
Bernie.
are determined to bring those days back again.
What do we want? When do we want it? And if we don't get it?
Peers put one man higher than another, and it shouldn't be that way, because you got 2 people that do the same job at the same time. Tier 1 gets to enjoy his family working 40 hours a week. The Tier 2 guy has to work 60 to 70 hours.
This is pretty sweet, by the way, for the UAW to also push for, which is like the abolition of the 2-tier system, because they understand that it destroys solidarity. It is by design to do so, by the way. That is the outcome that they want to do.
a week just to make the same amount of pay that you're close to the tier 1 guy. He goes home at night, he can't even hold his baby no more because he can barely hold his hands. Spends time soaking in hot baths because he can barely move.
The big three, they have all them CEOs, they have no idea what it feels like to be able to wake up in pain almost every day because we work those 6 to 7 days out the week and we have no time to rest our bodies. They don't understand that, and they don't get what it's like trying to figure out if you're going to be able to eat or put food on your family's table the next day. They don't get that at all.
If we signed up for the UAW's request, instead of making money and distributing...
I'm worried this just pushes big three into robotics in earnest. I hate this fucking fear, man. I hate this fear mongering. Like, what do you mean it pushes them into robotics? First of all, that's already happened. Like, you think manufacturing is happening by fucking by hand in the same way? They're already doing that. Okay, that's number one. The only thing that the move towards robotics in the absence of fucking labor contract negotiations will create is a smaller labor force, which has already happened, with profits being sky high for these corporate overlords and the labor force getting the same amount of hours for less pay now, while their productivity is skyrocketed. The only way to stop against that, the only way to push back against that is not necessarily to stop automation in general, but is instead to demand less hours for more pay. Same fucking workforce, less hours, more pay, even increase the workforce numbers, as a matter of fact.
$75,000 in profit sharing in the last 10 years, we would have lost $15 billion and gone bankrupt by now.
You've seen a 34% pay increase in your salary. You make almost $30 million. Why should your workers not get the same type of pay increases that...
So why are unions so difficult for HR payroll? Brilliant, bold, beautiful question. You work in payroll and HR. Both say unions are incredibly difficult to work with. Thoughts? Yeah, brother, what do you think your job is quite literally to be against, the better interests of workers. Like, that's your job. Like, that's by design. I mean, there's people who are in HR. Okay, there's people that work in HR in this community, but they also fucking know what their job is supposed to do. You know what I mean? Like, before everybody goes scab and fucking yells at them, shut the fuck up, chat. Stop being weird, okay? It's a job. It's a job. What are you going to do, okay? Everybody does awful shit for the most part. Calm down. But also understand that, like, your job directly pits you against the workforce. It's supposed to help the company. It's presented as a way to help the humans, human resources, the way to help the workers, but it's just yet another way to help and protect the company, shield the company from further legal scrutiny. That's your job. HR should be called LP instead for litigation prevention. That's all they do. Yeah.
You're getting. We think we have a very competitive offer on the table, and that's why we want to get back there and get this done.
Last year, these companies spent $9 billion not to improve the lives of their workers, but to pay for stock buybacks and dividends to make their wealthy stockholders even richer. Meanwhile, the average wage for American auto workers has decreased by 30% after adjusting for inflation. Do you want to know why you're out on strike right now? That's the reason.
Cost cutting will always continue, chatters. Objectively speaking, the cost of a car built in 1993 compared to 2023 would be astronomically high. Higher material costs and labor costs, but someone current vehicles are out of reach of union workers being able to afford them. But somehow, you mean? It's not a bad metric. Can the UAW workers afford the vehicles they produce? It's a brilliant metric. If only someone with like a beard fucking made the same assessment, argument / prediction about workers not being able to own the things that they produce and what that means for companies. There was a guy who had that. No, not Bernie. His name was Carlos Santana. Just kidding. His name is Carlos Marcus Aurelius. All right.
Without our labor, this country couldn't function. They say that we're asking for too much, but really it's the CEOs and the corporate leaders that are having too much. There's no reason that they should be making, 300-400 times more than what I make or what my union brothers and sisters make. Is your time really worth 300 or 400 times more? Do you really work 300 or 400 times harder than we do? No, you don't.
Every human being wants to provide a better life for their family. That's what we work for. That's what we go to work every day for. So a 40% raise, that would finally make us feel like what we're doing is actually respected.
Since 1948, COLA, the cost of living adjustment, has been part of every single UAW contract until 09. You all took the biggest hit. Plant closures destroyed communities. You guys got rid of coal. You did everything you were supposed to do so you can keep them afloat. And now that you're all struggling, our retirees are struggling, now they want to turn their backs to you while they give themselves 300 to 4 times more in pay.
They want to use scare tactics now, saying we're going to wreck the economy. In their economy, one of our workers would have to work 400 years to make what a CEO makes in 1 year. We're not going to wreck the economy. We're going to wreck their economy.
I like how Shawn Fain is aggressive.
The thing about Shawn Fain's leadership is he's accountable to the membership. He's the first UAW leader that was directly democratically elected by the membership. He's actually doing what the members want. He's taking our demands. They're not the president's demands, but the members' demands, and taking them to the companies. It's not just about him having a cushy job at Solidarity House or being a big-time union boss. It's about fighting for your members, and so I respect him for that.
Walter Reuther, when he built the UAW back in the day, he worked hard to build a foundation combined by the big three that everybody.
Bro, it's getting harder and harder, progressively harder and harder for me to pay attention to what the fuck is going on screen, because Kaya is literally the cutest dog on the planet. Okay? She's just like standing behind me waiting to be pet. And I just keep giving her little pets, but it's just like so fucking hard. It's messed up. What she's doing is actually fucked up. It's nuts how big she is. It's crazy.
They wanted to work for. If you were a UAW auto worker, that was a dream job. Shawn's leading us back into that direction again.
He's kind of like to me, like the big brother I need in order for somebody to lead me and help me grow more within the union with my union brothers and sisters. I'm prepared to fight to the end, and I hope everybody's ready, because I'm ready.
The only way that you're going to get economic justice in your life is by coming together with other working class people. Our only clout as a class is to withhold our labor. And through withholding our labor collectively and acting in concert, we can have power to make this economy work for working class people.
Together we stand in solidarity. In solidarity we stand together. And together we're unstoppable.
Union! Union!
Shawn Fain won the election by 500 votes, which is kind of crazy to think of, especially because I feel like now if you were to ask the UAW's opinion on him, they would be dramatically more positive. It's crazy. Really, love to see it, man. All right, let's get back to the fucking election stuff, though.
Being president.
I can't speak to every American out there and their concerns. What I can speak to is what this president has done, right? I can speak to his experience. I can speak to the wisdom that he has. I can speak to his record.
One thing Democrats and Republicans seem to agree on, they don't want a Biden-Trump rematch. 64% said that would make them feel that the political system is broken, and only 8% think that these are the two best candidates for the job.
It's a small number.
That's right. It's a big country with a lot of people. A lot of people are asking that question. Here we are again. I'm trying to figure out, Nancy, what's a youthful idea? I like that.
Probably ideas you agree with, right? But the White House has figured out they can't ignore this anymore, and they think humor might be the best weapon.
I think it's less about age and more about the mental and physical ability to lead the country.
And here is Donald Trump on Meet the Press, baby. Let's go. Exclusive NBC. And he's popping off in this, okay? He's fucking popping off. Oh, shit. Ow. Oh, God. Okay. Okay, chill. God damn. Look at that. Hello. She's so fucking heavy, it's crazy.
President Trump, welcome back to Meet the Press.
Thank you.
I want to dive right into this, a lot to get to.
Good.
There are a number of things that make your campaign unprecedented. You are the first former president to run for re-election in more than 100 years. You are facing 4 indictments. You have an incredibly significant lead in the GOP primary polls. But I want to ask you this, Mr. President. Why do you want to be president again?
Well, it's a very simple answer, and I can give it very easily. It's called Make America Great Again. Our country is in serious trouble. I don't think we've ever been so low in terms of certainly opinion, world opinion, and country opinion. People are devastated. They look at what's happening with millions of people coming in, millions of illegal immigrants coming into our country, flooding our cities, flooding the countryside. I think the number is going to be 15 million people by the time you end this. By the end of this year, I think the real number is going to be 15 million people. They come from prisons. They come from mental institutions, insane asylums. They say, sir, please don't use that term, but it's true. They're terrorists at a level. It was very interesting. On NBC, I saw a poll, and I saw some statistics, and it said in 2019,
just remember how, like, what size she was like 2-3 months ago. Oh, I feel like that might have been a little baby earthquake.
there were no terrorists. They caught no terrorists. There was nothing that they saw. There was no anything. And now, this year, it's a record number like they've never seen before. So we did a great job at the border. We did a great job with the military. We did a great job with inflation. We had essentially no inflation. We had a great economy. And we didn't have an Afghanistan disaster. We were getting out, but we were going to get out with dignity and pride, not the way they got out. That was
nothing better than Donald Trump being able to just like take this position where nothing more awesome than Donald Trump being able to take the position that he is like anti-war and like he wanted to get out of Afghanistan, which is popular, while simultaneously being like, I could have done it better. It's like, no, bitch, you wouldn't have done it at all. You had the shot. You didn't do it. It's crazy.
Surrender and an embarrassment and horrible. We gave $85 billion worth of equipment to the Taliban.
The worst part about this is that like the Afghanistan withdrawal was bad. It was always going to be bad in some ways. You can't just like leave a country after occupying it for 20 fucking years. But like the worst aspects of why it was bad never get covered. Like it's bad because there's no protection for the people of Afghanistan. It's bad because like we took their money and didn't give it. Like we still haven't given it back to them. It's bad because like we're refusing to allow like actual NGOs that used to operate in Afghanistan and continue operating in Afghanistan. You know what I mean? Like all this shit, like those are all the bad things. And except like when Donald Trump criticizes it, he's like, oh, it's bad because we left our weapons. It's like, no, man, that's not the bad part. Like that you fucking left behind all this junk that you always leave behind because logistically speaking, it's more expensive and more costly to just like ship them back. You know? It's so stupid.
We had death, so much death and so much horrible destruction. And it was a terrible thing. I think it was the lowest point in the history of our country. Now, with all of that, we can change it and we can make America great again. And that's why I'm doing this.
Well, and you have talked about a lot. We are going to delve into a number of the issues you brought up. You talked about all the people coming across the border. Of course, a lot of families also coming across the border as well. I want to talk to you about that a little bit later on. But first, let's talk about the breaking news today. We learned just a short time ago that the president's son, Hunter Biden, was indicted by a federal grand jury on 3 gun charges. Given that, Mr. President, can you continue to say that there are 2 systems of justice?
Well, I think there's no question about it. He had a plea deal that was
I don't know, dude. I find it pretty bad that USA leaves weapons laying around like an odd sock. Bro, I think it was an earthquake. Am I crazy? Maybe I'm on high alert for no reason. No, never mind. Nope. Okay. Just Kaya laying down. Yeah. Probably. Okay. Fuck, what was I gonna say? God damn it. Leaving equipment is the least of their worries. It's impossible to maintain without their expertise in the supply chain. Yeah. People talk about it. People talk about leaving weapons behind, like used socks or whatever. And it's really interesting because it's like, dog, you think the American military did not factor this in? You know what I mean? Like, you think the American military was like, oh man, fuck, we just decided to leave these guns behind. Like, no. What are you gonna, like, all of that requires a $1 trillion operation to keep it running. And even then, if you know anything about the fucking military, you know that even with the trillions of dollars of funding, especially overseas operations, are constantly fucking up. These guys didn't have support on their armored personnel carriers underneath the fucking cars. And they had like a ton of veterans, a ton of fucking active duty people on tour get their dicks blown off by fucking IEDs until they were like, oh yeah, I guess we have to like do something about that. Like, what the fuck are you talking about? They lost the fighter jet on U.S. soil literally today. Yes, part of the problem is like, it doesn't fucking matter. It doesn't matter that, what do you call it? That they're leaving behind like old ass shit. Okay? It kind of doesn't matter. Like, it's not as big as a threat as you claim it is. Especially when considering the reality that we've given these guys like sidewinders and you know, like actual fucking anti-aircraft guns and trained them on it before the Afghan Civil War. Like, they used those against American military. You know what I'm saying? Like, what the fuck are we talking about? It's not as big as a problem in the grand scheme of things, in the way that like Trump and others try to claim it is. I don't find it a threat to the U.S. government. It's just the more shitty anti-civilian actions. Yeah, man, it's crazy. Especially because like, you know, those guys who are anti-civilian, we train them, a lot of them, and we arm them, a lot of them. But they're not going to be able to like use the fucking attack helicopters or refuel them endlessly and like utilize it. That's my point. They usually scrap it before they leave it behind too, so.
The deal of the century, the art of the deal. You could write a book on it, the art of the deal. And all of a sudden that was broken up by a judge who was able to, a brilliant judge actually, who was able to see through what was happening.
3M gave their shitty ear protection to the people in service. Hella people lost hearing, and it's a big lawsuit now. American military doesn't even give a fuck where the money goes. I agree. Like, I think people greatly overemphasize the issue of leaving behind equipment. Not that it's a good thing, obviously, but I think people make it seem like that's a big problem for modern day Afghan existence. And it's like, you know what's a bigger problem? Billions of dollars of funds that we've seized and we're not giving back, and also not allowing NGOs to operate in the fucking region, okay? Those are significantly larger harms upon the Afghan civilian population, okay? If we gave a single shred of a fucking shit, we would do something to change that result, okay?
And it's a sad situation. I mean, nobody should be happy about this. I'm not happy about it. Nobody is.
Yeah, they need constant maintenance of specific parts that they can't get, but still, it's just ridiculous.
It's a very sad thing. It's so bad for our country. But, you know, if you think about it, I've been under investigation from the day I came down the escalator, and a phony investigation, fake investigations, investigations that I beat every single time, still under investigations. But it's a very sad thing, and it's a slippery slope.
But Mr.
And
Biden,
dangerous, very dangerous for our country.
But you talked about the plea deal, but now Hunter Biden's been indicted. He's facing very serious charges. So doesn't that undercut your entire argument that there are two systems of justice in this
Look,
country?
it's one of 12 charges. There are 12 possible charges.
And he's
this
still
is
under
the only charge
investigation.
that doesn't affect his father.
Well, he's still under investigation.
Well, sure, maybe. I mean, let's see what happens. But this is the only charge that doesn't affect Joe Biden. This was the gun charge. But gun charges are very serious. You know, people have had gun charges and gone to jail for a lot of years. I pardoned some people who I thought it was just horrible what happened, but they were put in jail for many, many years, rappers and others. So, look, it's a bad thing.
GOAT.
But it's one of 12. And it's the one.
He's trying to say the only thing that they're charging him on is an issue that like can't be tied back to Biden. That's what he's saying. He's complaining that like it's only the gun charge that they're hitting him on because like he's claiming that there is like you know, a little bit of back and forth, maybe some wheeling and dealing happening with the prosecutors in the situation. Ironic because like the independent prosecutor is like a Trump appointee, but you know.
Charge that doesn't affect Joe Biden.
Well, of course, there's no evidence that the president has any link to his son's business dealings. Let me ask you, though,
well, I don't
Well,
necessarily agree. He called in. You mean he called in all these meetings? He was calling in on the meetings. He was put on speakerphone and every single day. And
the witness
literally
testified.
many, many calls. And what about the fact that he got rid of the prosecutor for $1 billion?
Well, the witness who testified.
You don't get rid of this prosecutor. We're not giving you $1 billion to Ukraine. He said that. I mean, there are a lot of things here.
Mr. President, the witness who testified, though, said that he never heard any discussion of business when President Biden was put on the phone.
Wait a minute. You saw the prosecutor thing on television because I saw it on your network. He said, you don't get rid of this prosecutor, I'm not giving $1 billion.
That was looked into as well. And as you know, there was never any wrongdoing.
If I ever said that, quid pro quo.
Huh. She should have asked him if he's going to pardon Hunter like he did Kodak. Yeah. I love how they reverse the prosecutor. Yeah, why doesn't anybody just go like, okay, if it was Hunter Biden that wanted this prosecutor gone, like why was Victor Shokin working, according to our research at least, with at the behest of the Burisma executives? Like why was he holding up an investigation, an international investigation into Burisma? Like, what's the answer there? Like, oh well, he was too stupid. He didn't know what was in his best interest. He still wanted Victor Shokin fired.
Let's move on to what a second Trump term would look like.
No.
When you launched your campaign in March, you told the crowd.
The question wasn't about Biden. It was Trump's belief that there are two justices. Even then, you're just wrong. Why not answer my question then? If you know more than the U.S. military, then why can't you figure out a way we don't watch out? Oh, come on, dude. Why don't we have to watch ads on top of every hour? Like, well, I've been trying all day, literally all fucking day. It was shit. It was easy bait. It's not good bait. But it's true, regardless. The United States military has figured out a way to avoid the top of the hour ad break. Okay? It's called a $5 a month subscription. Or it's called a free one in the form of a Twitch Prime. Or it's called getting gifted a sub. Okay? Now, those are the three ways that you can avoid the top of the hour ad break if you would like. Here's a 3-minute ad break now. Azan, you've fallen the fuck off getting debated all the time now. I know. I really have. Those people, thank you for the 5. Get the subs. Neon Majestic, thank you for the 5. Gifted subs. When is TwitchCon Vegas? Oh, I just saw it. Okay, we're good. I will be at TwitchCon Vegas, of course.
Crowd, quote, I am your retribution. What does that mean? What does that look like?
I think retribution is talking in terms of I have to protect people. What they're doing to people is so horrible.
My guy, I finally did it and sold my CSGO knife and got me a Steam Deck with the money. I'm very excited, and your love for it helped push me into buying it. Brother, you are going to have so much more fun with the fucking Steam Deck than you would have with the CSGO knife. I'm going to be honest with you.
Horrible. They're
retribution.
Sorry.
In March, you told the crowd, quote, I am your retribution. What does that mean? What does that look like?
I think retribution is talking in terms of I have to protect people. What they're doing to people is so horrible. They're putting people in jail for long periods of time. Firemen, policemen, accountants, even lawyers. They're in prisons for years now and don't even have trials in some cases. And if you look at Antifa and other groups, practically nothing happened to them. They burned down Portland. They burned down Minneapolis. They took over Seattle. I mean, they literally took over a big chunk of the city. People died and nothing happened to them. We have to protect all people.
Yeah. Trump is going to come back and Trump is going to come back and arrest everybody that that he didn't get to arrest while he was president. You know, and also release all the people under his on his side. Oh God, it's so awesome, man. It's so sick. It's like literally everything is just the enemies are bad. When they do the same exact things, they're in the wrong. When my guys do it, they're in the right and need to be protected. It's pretty basic stuff. It's great. It's like cities were burning down. When my guys did it at the Capitol, very, very respectfully, they burned it down. And they got arrested for no reason.
But when you talk about retribution, are you talking about directing your attorney general to try to go after your political enemies?
When I talk about retribution, I'm talking about fairness. We have to treat people fairly. These people on January 6th, some of them never even went into the building, and they're being given sentences of, many years.
Are you going to pardon
and nothing
those
is
people who've been
happening?
convicted?
Well, I'm going to look at them, and I certainly might if I think it's appropriate. No, it's a very, very sad thing, and they're dividing the country so badly, and it's very dangerous.
Well, Mr. President, we're going to delve into that a little bit later on, but I want to stay on this idea of what you mean by retribution. Are you looking to appoint an attorney general who will prosecute the people you tell them to prosecute?
I'm looking to appoint an attorney general who's going to be tough on crime and fair. Very simple.
And go after your political enemies?
No, I would never do that. But Biden has done that. Look, Biden, these aren't indictments against me. These are Biden indictments. This isn't God coming down and very fairly said, Joe, you spoke badly about an election. The election was rigged. There's no question about that. There's so much proof on it. Even if you go to the more modern day proof with the, they call it Twitter files, FBI and Twitter, or you take a look at the Amazon stuff or the Google stuff, or you take a look at 2000 Mules, you take a look at all of the ballot stuffing that's on tape, you take a look at the fact that the legislatures didn't approve a lot of the things that were done in the elections and they had to approve. And we could go on forever. We could go on forever. But no, I want somebody that's going to be strong, respected, tough, and fair.
Just to go back to a couple of the points you said, the ballot stuffing, that's something that's been debunked.
It hasn't
As
been
you
debunked.
know,
It's on camera.
But I do want to keep moving forward.
Yeah,
and
but
of course,
Kristen, it's on camera. Hundreds and even thousands and thousands of people. You take a look. True the vote. Take a look. It's on camera.
But Mr. President,
they have
you know,
thousands of
Republican
pictures.
officials
But
and
I know,
top
but
law
Kristen, you can't
enforcement
say
officials have
they have
told you that
thousands
that's
of pictures of
debunked.
people. I know you have to say that for your network, but you shouldn't say it. Because that's the problem.
But Mr.
The
President, that's
news
the
has
truth, and
lost
you've been
such
told that.
power.
Let's stay on track, though, Mr. President. Let's
But
stay on
no,
track
but you're
with
saying
this
to
question.
me, it hasn't. We have thousands of essentially motion pictures of people stuffing the ballot boxes.
But Mr. President,
tens of thousands.
they're not stuffing the ballot boxes, and you've been told that by your top law enforcement officials. But let's stay on track because we have so much ground to cover.
You have
We
people that went
policy ground
and voted
to cover,
in one
Mr.
place,
President.
another place, as many as I understand, 28 different places in one day with 7, 8, 9 ballots apiece. They can't do anymore because it would look too phony. These were professional people. They were stuffing the ballot boxes. It's there. I mean, it's there to see. A lot of people don't like looking at it.
60 different cases all across the country. You lost that, but let's stay on track.
We lost because the judges didn't want to hear them.
Mr. President,
but if this were ever before a court, we would win so easy. There is so much evidence that the election was rigged. And you may not even put the section on your show, and you'll have to decide what you want to do.
Damn, this guy's good.